Look at her, she's spittin' nerdy. Look at her, she's spittin' nerdy. Can't you see she's spittin' nerdy? Look at her, she's spittin' nerdy.
Good morning, everyone. Today is day one of Marissa tries the carnivore diet for a week. I've just been hearing about this a lot lately, and I just find it absolutely fascinating. And so I thought I'd just do a little experiment doing fully carnivore for just a week. This is not something I'm recommending as like a healthy diet. We definitely don't have enough science yet to know if this is healthy long term. In my last video, I will have gone through all of the theoretical science, that's an oxymoron, the theories and some of the science behind the carnivore diet. So before you freak out and tell me that this is the least healthy thing I could possibly be doing for my body and that there's no way that anyone could sustain themselves on an all-meat diet, go check that video out because I will be going super in-depth with all of like the current knowledge surrounding the carnivore diet and also explaining why it does seem to actually be potentially sustainable. So if you want to yell at me because you think I'm absolutely crazy, go watch that video first because I will be giving a much more in-depth explanation. But like I said, I'm just doing this as an experiment. I'm not recommending it to anyone. I'm just totally fascinated by this whole thing and wanted to give it a try. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna go to the farmer's market. From everything that I have read, it does seem to be that meat that has been 100% pasture raised, 100% grass fed, hormone and antibiotic free / like just generally humanely raised is much better for you than meat that has been like factory farmed and pumped full of hormones. So that is the kind of meat I will be eating for the duration of this. That was a very successful farmer's market trip. I'll show you guys my little haul for what I got. First, I got 2 beef New York strip steaks, a beef ribeye steak. I got a thing of 2 lamb chops. I figured adding in some diversity might be a good thing to do. And then organ meats are some of the most nutrient dense things you can consume. So I got this ground beef that's actually 20% beef liver. So I just got that to maximize my nutrient intake. And then I also got some bacon because I don't know what I'm gonna do for breakfast. And I feel like bacon is the answer to my breakfast question. Oh, and then I also got a pound of shrimp. Shrimp is not, I don't think, as nutrient dense as red meat, but I figured having some amount of diversity was probably a good thing. Also, I'm probably gonna get real tired of red meat real fast and I'm gonna need something else. I also have like 1.5 pounds of salmon in the fridge from last time I went to the farmer's market. So that is also on the menu. So I'm about 4/5 of the way done with my first meal. This is like a 1 pound ribeye steak and I already feel like I'm not gonna make it an entire week. Until a few months ago, I hadn't eaten red meat in 10 years, just because I saw Sweeney Todd and got grossed out and didn't want to eat red meat after that. I introduced red meat in my diet, but I'm still not used to like the fat in it. It feels disgusting when I eat it and it's just not pleasant. And I can't tell right now if it's actually making my stomach feel kind of funny or if I'm just kind of grossed out and feeling funny because of that. I am out for a walk. Today was a non-gym day and I've kind of just been sitting all day editing, so I figured it was time to get some movement in. But I wanted to talk really quickly about what it was that actually really inspired me to start looking to this and how I ended up going down this path of actually trying the carnivore diet for myself. The first time I heard about the carnivore diet was, of course, on the Mind to Pump podcast. They were interviewing Dr. Sean Baker, who is one of the most outspoken advocates for the carnivore diet. I heard that episode and I was like, he sounds as crazy as the breatharian people, the people who like try to live off of just breathing and never eating and probably ultimately die. He sounded as crazy as those people, and so I kind of wrote it off. And then they ended up having another podcast guest, and her name was Michaela Peterson, and that's when my perspective kind of started to change and I started to pay more attention. Michaela's illness history is long and complicated. She's been through and dealt with a lot, so I will try to keep it to the highlights. But essentially, when she was really young, she developed rheumatoid arthritis. By the time she was 15, she had to have a, I believe, hip and knee replacement because her joints were just falling apart because of the progression of the disease. Sometime around age 7, I don't know, give or take like 3 years, she started developing depression, and by the time she was 12, it was so crippling that her parents actually decided to put her on antidepressants, which clearly is a huge deal because she was a child, but I guess she was basically like non-functional, so they made that decision. By the time she was in college, she could only stay awake for like 6 or 8 hours maximum. She was sleeping most of the day, and essentially she just didn't have a life. And then all of a sudden she started having skin issues, and this is what prompted her to start eliminating different foods to see what was triggering the skin issues specifically. And I think the first thing she cut out was gluten, and that helped her skin a lot. And the more she cut out, the better she ended up feeling overall, and she just kept cutting stuff out and eventually got down to, I think, meat and broccoli. Then after not too long of her only eating meat and broccoli, her joints started to feel better, and then she started to be able to stay awake for the duration of a day, which kind of gave her her life back. And then her depression lifted, and it's just like, what? Literally all she changed was her diet, and she stopped eating pretty much every plant-based thing except for broccoli. Then she ended up getting pregnant, her body changed, and she could no longer tolerate broccoli, and now she has to only eat meat, which is really unfortunate, but it cleared up so many insane issues that were taking away her entire life. And then Michaela's dad is a fairly well-recognized psychologist and author. His name is Jordan Peterson, and he was on Joe Rogan not too long ago talking about how when Michaela discovered that changing her diet relieved her symptoms, that she recommended it to him too, because he also suffered from severe depression and anxiety. So he tried the carnivore diet, and he said that within, I think it was about 1 week, he was actually able to get out of bed in the morning and wake up, which is something that was extremely difficult for him before that. And then I think within 3 weeks, his depression also lifted. And it's just so mind-blowing to see how much of a role their diet played in things that they thought were beyond their control. And I am totally aware that because they're related, there's a little bit less credibility because they could just be both genetic anomalies. But if you go into the Facebook groups and the forums and stuff where people are talking about their experience with the carnivore diet, you'll see so many similar stories, and it's just fascinating. And I honestly think this is more about how much of a role our diet can play in our mental health rather than specifically how the carnivore diet can affect mental health, because I think for each person individually it could be entirely different. Someone's mental health could be negatively triggered by meat and do much better on a vegan diet. And this really emphasizes how important it is to look at health holistically and not see the body as a bunch of different systems that don't interact with each other. A few weeks ago, I would have told you that a whole food plant-based diet is unequivocally going to be healthier and better than a diet based entirely around animal and animal products. Now I'm much more strong in my belief that everyone's diet is very individual. You have to find what works for you and essentially just eliminate what you're intolerant to and what you react poorly to. And if you react poorly to meat, eliminate meat. If you react poorly to all plants, then you should probably eliminate all plants. And that is why, starting in just a few more weeks, I will be resuming my journey to find my perfect diet with a bunch of different elimination diets to figure out what foods work for me and what foods don't. It's day 2, and I've already decided that I need to incorporate eggs into this diet, because if I don't, I probably won't eat anything. I was debating whether or not I wanted to do just 100% meat the entire time and not even go as far as like tea or coffee, but I think, you know, I'm not doing this as an elimination diet, I'm just doing it for a week, so I think there's really no harm in adding those things in. So I'm gonna have my eggs and bacon, which I burnt a little bit, which I'm really sad about because it's really good bacon. Then I think I'm gonna have a cup of coffee and go to the gym. So I just got home from the gym and I was feeling so weak when I was lifting, which was really disappointing because for the last like 3 weeks, my strength gains have just been going up and up and up. And today I just completely plateaued. There was only one lift that I actually did any better in, and everything else I struggled to do what I did last time. And I feel like this is less due to the diet and more due to the fact that because of the diet, I'm very satiated to the point where I don't want to eat more once I'm full for a very long time. And so I'm eating a lot fewer calories than I'm used to. I'm trying to just listen to my body and eat when I'm hungry and stop when I'm full. But on this diet, that's just resulting in me eating a lot less. And I don't know if that's a really bad thing. Like, I'm only doing this diet for a week. If I'm in a pretty steep caloric deficit for a week, that's not gonna be a super bad thing. But I don't know, that gym session was just pretty disappointing. I'm 90% sure I'm gonna have to go vegan for a week after finishing this because meat is already just so unappetizing right now. Like, I don't want to keep eating it. It's just, nothing sounds appetizing right now. So far today, I've had about 5 ounces of steak and a small chicken soup, and my body just, it feels completely full. It feels like I don't need any other food, but that's not enough food. But also the idea of more steak right now just does not sound appealing at all. I just made some breakfast, some of my leftover salmon with 2 scrambled eggs, and I was kind of hungry before I started cooking this, and now it's in front of me and I don't feel like eating. I keep saying this, but this diet has literally just completely killed my appetite and my cravings for anything at all. Like, there's nothing that I want to replace this with. Like, I don't want pancakes or oatmeal or a smoothie. I don't want anything. You know, it is strangely freeing to not really be hungry and not be craving anything. It's disorienting, but it's kind of freeing. I've spent all day driving all over Los Angeles returning film equipment from a small shoot that we just did, and I have actually worked up an appetite. So I need food. I didn't bring any extra food with me, but I'm fairly close to my favorite butcher, Bel Campo, so I think I'm gonna call them and place an order and see what they can do for me to just give me meat and animal products.
How can I help you?
Hi, can I place an order for pickup, please?
What would you like?
So this might be a kind of strange request, but is it possible to get just like 2 of the thin patties with the cheese and bacon on top?
Okay, like meat, cheese, bun, bacon?
No bun. Literally, just like meat, cheese, bacon.
Double bacon. You want lettuce wrap or you just don't want anything?
No.
Alright, we'll see you when you get here.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Bye. You seemed a little confused. We'll see if my burger ends up coming with like a lettuce wrap or with onion and tomato and all that stuff that goes on it. Success! They did it. There was one more piece of bacon in there, but I couldn't resist and ate it already because I'm hungry. This is the first time I've been excited for a meal since I started this. I have to come clean. Yesterday, I had a little bit of kombucha and I had some again this morning. Well, I haven't had any outward signs of any digestive issues. Actually, since I talk about my poop with you guys all the time, I'm just gonna tell you guys about it. A lot of people are like, how do you poop on the carnivore diet? You have no fiber. Guess what? My poop has been like better than normal. Much more regular, consistent, good texture, you know. This is getting gross, we're gonna move on. So while that part has been fine, I've just felt not ideal, and I think it's just the fact that the carnivore diet takes the body a while to adjust to, because it's a big change from a standard diet. So if I were to start this over, I would probably slowly phase out all of the non-carnivore foods and get down to probably just kombucha, avocado, and meat or something like that, and stick with that for a while as my body adjusts to trying to digest so much more fat than it's used to. And of course, your gut microbiome is heavily influenced by what you're actually eating. So if you go from one diet that's full of vegetables and plants to a diet of 0 plants and only meat that's full of fat, your gut is gonna have to like change its microbiome completely, and I think it takes a little while for it to adjust. And I think that's what I was struggling with, is just the fact that the bacteria in my gut hadn't transitioned to a point yet where they were ready for all of this meat that I've been consuming. And so as soon as I started drinking the kombucha, I started feeling better. And I've already felt an influence on my appetite. Yesterday I was able to eat a lot more. Today I feel good. Like, I don't feel like I don't want meat like I was feeling the last few days. Kind of regretting the fact that I just didn't think about the fact that I could have gone to buy a actual like probiotic supplement rather than drink kombucha, because that would have been a lot more in line with the diet, because kombucha has sugar, which is definitely not carnivore. The thing that fascinates me the most about the carnivore diet is how well certain people respond to it, as opposed to like a healthy paleo diet or a comparable healthy diet that otherwise should be healthy. And I think a lot of it boils down to the fact that autoimmune disorders are so much more common right now because of a bunch of various environmental factors, and the prevalence of food intolerances has also increased. And there are just some people that, because of how food is raised today and the various environmental factors, they're basically intolerant to pretty much everything, and it can make their autoimmune disorders flare up and be really horrible. And meat intolerances are very, very rare, so when they proceed to cut out everything other than meat, they get better. So what it seems like is, if you do really well on a carnivore diet, it's not because the foods that you're cutting out are inherently bad, it's just that they don't agree with your body. Same way where if someone had a meat intolerance and they cut out all meat products, they would probably also feel better. Plants themselves, though, tend to give more people issues than meat, because meat comes from animals. Animals tend to have defense mechanisms like long sharp beaks or claws or talons or very sharp teeth or a big horn on the end of their nose. So they can defend themselves in the wild, and they don't have to have an internal defense mechanism too. Plants, on the other hand, are just kind of sitting there out in the open, out in the wild, ripe for the picking, with no way to defend themselves. So most plants have internal defense mechanisms. And this means that lots of plants have evolved mechanisms that made them less likely to be consumed, because when you consume it, it causes some sort of digestive stress. So take wheat, for example. If you were to eat raw wheat, just like picked from the wheat field, that would not go well. That would cause a lot of digestive issues, and that's why we have evolved different ways of processing it to make it digestible for humans. A lot of plants are like this, and we've also changed a lot of plants in the last couple hundred years to make them nothing like they were when we as humans were evolving and eating them. And so those changes themselves can also present other problems. So it's kind of the general theory behind why the carnivore diet works for so many people, because when they cut out all these different plants that are triggering all these different autoimmune responses, causing inflammation, etc., they feel a lot better. Also, yes, I brought raw meat to work with me to cook so that I could have, that's actually my breakfast for the day, and it's like 4 p.m. I think my body's starting to adjust to this diet pretty well. I didn't have any kombucha today, but my appetite is definitely coming back. I had a really big dinner last night. I just had a huge breakfast lunch. I was also pretty thirsty the first few days, but my thirst has gone back down to normal. What I'm most interested in right now is seeing how my strength has been affected. My first workout the day after I started this sucked. I was clearly weaker, and then it also took me 2 days to recover. I was actually sore the next day from a workout that I did less work, and it's a workout that I always do. Even when I've PR'd on multiple lifts on the workout, I've never been sore after doing it, and I was sore for 2 days. I don't know if that was a result of the diet so much as a lack of calories. It certainly wasn't a lack of protein, because I've been hitting about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. But I have another workout tonight, so we'll see how it goes. Just got home from the gym, and I PR'd on my squat and my bench press. So I don't think my strength is suffering too much, but we'll see how my recovery goes tomorrow and see if I'm sore. It's day 7, my last day on the carnivore diet. Please don't mind the mess on my bed. I'm doing laundry. I just sat down for dinner and I'm having some shrimp and a cup of piping hot bone broth. I got a lot of comments on my last video from people asking about organ meats and eating nose to tail, and I totally think that if I were to ever commit to doing the carnivore diet for a long period of time, I would definitely be incorporating organ meats and other pieces of the animal. With regards to my workout yesterday and recovery, I am not at all sore. I feel maybe a little bit stiff, but other than that, I feel pretty great. My 1 week trial of the carnivore diet is now over, and it's a really interesting feeling because I thought I would kind of feel like I do after a fast, where I'm really craving foods and I'm like, oh my god, what am I gonna eat? I'm so excited to eat, and I'm really not super excited to start eating. My appetite has been completely suppressed, and I think that's gonna be my personal biggest takeaway from this diet, is knowing how it feels to be absolutely completely satiated to the point where I have 0 cravings. Before I started this diet, there basically was not a time where I would not have wanted chocolate, but throughout this diet, I didn't crave chocolate. That's such a weird thing for me. But it's also super freeing and motivating to know that maybe I could get to a point at one time where I don't have any cravings that I have to constantly think about. I would ultimately love to find a diet like this that perhaps has a little bit more variety, but provides the same kind of satiety where I'm not hungry throughout the day, I'm not craving anything throughout the day, but perhaps lets me be a little bit more hungry so that I can get as many calories as I need for my body to function optimally. It is now 2 days post carnivore diet, and I need to update you guys. I started the carnivore diet because when I started looking into the science and theories behind it, I was absolutely fascinated, and I wanted to share what I was discovering with you guys, and I figured that if I was going to talk about it, I should actually try it. Since I was only doing it for a week, I wasn't planning on getting anything out of it other than an understanding of what it's like to only eat meat, and I certainly wasn't going into it thinking, oh my god, I'm going to do something that's super healthy for my body and only eat meat for a week. But I am now so glad I did this because I have gotten so much more out of it than I expected. I said already that this diet helped me understand what it feels like to be truly satiated, but since I've started reintroducing foods, I've realized that this diet also made me much more aware of what it's like to have 0 negative digestive symptoms. I didn't realize how much better my digestion had got in the last week until I started reintroducing other foods and started feeling more normal again, and realized that my normal, how I feel on my regular diet that's full of a huge variety of foods, is not as good as it could be. Yesterday I started slowly by reintroducing avocado and kombucha. I had a burger patty with egg, bacon, and lettuce for breakfast. So I didn't cut out meat and add a ton of veggies because I figured that a week without fiber and then suddenly switching to a very high fiber diet would probably not be a good idea. And throughout the day I started slowly reintroducing more and more healthy foods, and by the end of the day I felt like I usually do at the end of the day, but I realized I felt a lot worse than I had for the last few days. Comparatively, I felt bloated and I felt sluggish and I felt like my digestion was off. But I also realized realized that this is how I normally feel. This is what I had gotten used to. This is what I had come to expect from a healthy diet. This morning I had a very balanced breakfast that I would usually eat on a usual day of being healthy, and the feeling I felt afterwards is what I would usually associate with just being very full, because it was a very big breakfast. But I was very full after eating 1,000 calories of ribeye or 1,200 calories of steak and eggs and bacon. And when I compare that kind of fullness on the carnivore diet to this kind of fullness that I actually still feel right now, I realized that this fullness is not just fullness. My belly is actually a little bit distended, and when I push on my abdomen, I feel a little bit of like hardness and resistance. And that's not something I experienced when I was eating purely carnivore. It's not like a huge amount of bloating or crazy like diarrhea or anything like that that would clearly be noticeable. And I think I only notice it now because I spent an entire week not experiencing any of those negative symptoms. So while I don't plan on going back to a purely carnivorous diet anytime soon, I am so glad I did this week of being on the carnivore diet, because it not only taught me what real satiety feels like, but it also taught me what my digestive system should feel like when it's functioning optimally. Going into this, I thought I was super in tune with my body, but this has taught me so much, and I feel like I'm even more in tune with my body now than I was a week ago. So I'm not recommending that everyone watching this video should go carnivore. Like I've said before, I don't think we have enough scientific proof that it is healthy in the long run. However, I do think it can be a valuable tool that when implemented the right way can help you achieve better health. For me, it has been immensely valuable because it has put me so much more in tune with my body. I'm starting my huge variety of elimination diets in about 2 weeks, and so when I go into that, I now know what to look for. I know what my baseline is of when my body's functioning really well, so that I can tell when I start to reintroduce foods what those symptoms might feel like. I also think a good way to use the carnivore diet might be to use it as an elimination diet itself. Go carnivore for 1 month and then slowly start reintroducing foods one at a time and see how every single food or food group affects you. I think ideally what you'd want to do is go carnivore for 1 month and then slowly start reintroducing foods, learn what plant-based foods you can eat, and then go vegan for an entire month and slowly introduce animal foods and see what animal foods you can tolerate, and then the Venn diagram between carnivore and vegan is what you would want your diet to be composed of. That's extremely restrictive though, and that's why I'm doing a series of various elimination diets rather than cutting out literally all foods except for one food group for a while. I think that can be particularly good for people with severe health issues that they need answers to ASAP. Obviously clear it with your doctor first. But there are so many chronic health issues that have been healed by a carnivore diet and healed by a vegan diet that trying both and figuring out what combination of the two works for you is gonna give you what works for you. TLDR, I think the carnivore diet can work fantastic for some people. I think a vegan diet can work fantastic for some people. I think the carnivore diet would be horrible for some people and veganism would be horrible for other people. No one diet is going to be optimal for every single human, and you have to figure out what works for you. Please do let me know your thoughts on all of this down below. I would love to have a rational science-based discussion about all of this with you guys. Please do give this video a big thumbs up because it really did support my channel and I really appreciate it. Please share this video with anyone you think would find it interesting at all. Please subscribe for more videos if you're interested in more videos, and hit that notification button so you don't miss the future videos, and I will see you very soon. Bye!